So the debut of Enterprise was deliberately scheduled to coincide with Voyager's end. Voyager's series finale aired in early 2001, and Enterprise debuted in September that same year. It was showrun first by Brennan Braga, who also worked on Voyager, but the final season was run by Manny Coto, known for his work on shows like 24 and Dexter. Enterprise is set about 100 years before the original series, in the 22nd century, and basically functions as a record of the events that influenced the formation of the United Federation of Planets. Wait. Enterprise takes place in a time frame before the Federation? How can there be a Starship Enterprise if there's no Starfleet? Oh, there is a Starfleet, but its operating authority is referred to as the United Earth Space Probe Agency, which was created following the proliferation of Zefram Cochrane's warp drive engine, and that engine was revised and upgraded by a certain Henry Archer as part of something called the NX program, which eventually produced the first Starship Enterprise, designation NX-01, the first starship capable of reaching warp factor 5. That ship was put under the command of none other than Henry Archer's own son, Captain Jonathan Archer, played by Scott Bakula. Okay, so this is very different. Yes. And as you'd expect, the many differences became both the secret sauce for the show's fans, as well as the Achilles heel that kept it from ever really popping off. Hang on. DS9 and Voyager were different too, so why was Enterprise more plagued? Because DS9 and Voyager benefited from being set in a paradigm already well established by TOS and TNG. It was much easier for them to distinguish themselves because the world was already built. But Enterprise was the first since TNG to have to do any of its own world building, and Gene Roddenberry wasn't around to help guide the creative vision. Okay, but Rick Berman was still involved, right? Yeah, but he didn't actually want to do the show. Oh, why not? He and his favorite showrunners were collectively experiencing burnout, both from the unrelenting work schedule and with the Star Trek franchise as a whole. He tried to tell Paramount that it was really just about making sure you don't over-milk the cash cow, but the studio execs made it clear that they were going to get more of Star Trek with or without Berman. So he and Braga agreed to do it just to save it from some randos they feared would bastardize it. Oof. That's already not a great reason to make a new show. Yeah, it was rough from the beginning, and the plot is also pretty bumpy, but that was by design. See, humans and Vulcans have been allies for about a century by this point, but since there's no Federation yet, the balance of power between them is far from equal and heavily favors the Vulcans. And while Vulcans have always been kind of full of themselves and condescending to other species, in this show, they are just full-blown supremacists. Not in like a violently prejudiced way or anything. More like, since we're so clearly better than everyone else, we obviously deserve to have the most power. Ugh, that's unpleasant. Yeah, and the humans are pretty fed up with it, which is actually a primary driver for the NX program. You mean the Enterprise was Earth's attempt at teaching Vulcan a lesson? God, no. Not to fight the Vulcans, but to earn their respect once and for all. See, the issue is that Vulcan possesses super advanced technology that they refuse to share with Earth until Earth proves they're worthy of it, basically. And deep space exploration is one of the criteria, which you kind of need a decently fast ship in order to do. Hence the Enterprise. But what else comes with deep space exploration, as we learned from Voyager? A lot of first contacts? Indeed, and the Vulcans wanted a way to observe how the humans would conduct themselves during such pivotal, high-stakes encounters. But they can't exactly follow them everywhere in a Vulcan ship. That would affect outcomes and defeat the purpose. So instead, they insist on assigning a Vulcan subcommander to serve on the Enterprise as the acting first officer under Archer. Ouch. Yeah, that feels like a dick move. I mean, yeah. So was that like the foundational conflict for the series? Earth trying to impress Vulcan? Not really. The conflict propelling the show actually comes from all the factions Earth suddenly contends with now that they have access to deep space. Archer makes first contact with the Klingons and Romulans, for example. Oh, nice. The Alpha Quadrant powers. That makes sense, given that this show is about the formation of the Federation. You didn't let me finish, 'cause, about that. What? The producers believed the show needed to succeed on its own merits as much as possible. So while familiar factions make an appearance for fan service, they also introduced bespoke antagonists rather than expound on familiar ones. But I know. It's a prequel to about for how we got the Federation. And it's also a show about the temporal Cold War, revolving around a mysterious unnamed figure from the 28th century known only as Future Man. Oh, and it's also about a multi-species faction called the Xindi, who at first appeared to be bloodthirsty aggressors, but turn out to be controlled by an also unnamed, enigmatic species that come to be known as the Sphere Builders. And yeah, we never encounter any of these factions again. They're only referenced from this point on. How do we get the Federation from that? Yeah, it wasn't exactly laser focused, and the audience could tell that the show was really struggling to find its footing. In hindsight, it did actually add to the believability of Captain Archer, the character, who, yes, is a Starfleet captain, but simply cannot have the assured confidence of any of the other captains. They all had an established Federation at their backs, and all Archer had is a salty, semi-racist Vulcan. So of course Archer's always either already pissed or about to be pissed. Sure. Just tell me the network didn't get panicked and start throwing in tropes like gratuitous sex into the soup just for ratings. Bruh, the female lead is Vulcan. They must have had at least a killer opening theme, right? Right? How do you feel about the styles of Rod Stewart or John Mellencamp, maybe? No. That's some CW type I've got faith of the heart. Oh, God. It's not the CW yet, but I'll be ready. Just stop, bro. Jeez. Is it as bad today as it seemed back then? No, not quite. The fourth and final season really does stand out, though sadly, the finale is arguably the worst part of the whole thing. Not even a good finale, bro. They tied it in as a subplot for a prior episode of The Next Generation. What? What happened to the show standing on its own merits? They went out kneeling to TNG? All I can say is make up your own mind after you watch it, but I, for one, am ready to talk about something else.